My name is Stella Harris. And the night my father threw me out of his house was the same night I inherited $15 billion. The morning my grandmother died, I sat beside her hospital bed holding her hand while the machines beeped softly in the background. She looked tired but peaceful, the kind of peace that only comes when someone has finished fighting. Before she closed her eyes, she squeezed my hand gently and whispered, "Promise me one thing, never let anyone buy your silence." I nodded, not fully understanding what she meant. By evening she was gone. And by nightfall, my entire life had changed in ways I never imagined. 3 days later, we gathered in her lawyer's office to hear the will. The air in the room felt heavy, thick with tension that no one openly acknowledged. My father sat at the head of the table, like he already owned everything. My stepmother watched quietly beside him, her expression calm but calculating. My half-brother Evan leaned back lazily, scrolling on his phone like none of this mattered. I sat near the end of the table, silent, grieving, expecting nothing. When the lawyer finally spoke my name, I barely reacted at first. Then came the words that stopped my heart. To my granddaughter, Stella Harris, I leave the entirety of my estate, valued at approximately $15 billion. For a moment, there was no sound. Then chaos exploded. My father shot up from his chair, his face twisting in disbelief. "That's impossible," he snapped. "This is a mistake." Linda gasped loudly. Evan finally looked up from his phone, his expression sharp with interest. And me? I sat frozen, unable to breathe. 15 billion. The number didn't feel real. It felt like something meant for someone else. The lawyer turned toward me calmly. "Miss Harris, do you accept the inheritance?" Every eye in the room locked onto me, demanding, pressuring, watching. "Let anyone buy your silence." "Yes," I said quietly. "I accept." The silence that followed felt dangerous. Not peaceful, not respectful, dangerous. Because in that moment, I saw something change in my father's eyes. Not sadness, not grief, control. Cold, calculating control. And that night, he showed exactly what he meant. Later that evening, he called me home. His voice wasn't warm or comforting. It was sharp, controlled, final. "We need to talk," he said. When I walked into the living room, the lights were too bright, the air too still. My father stood near the fireplace with a folder in his hands. Linda sat upright beside him. Evan leaned against the wall, watching like he expected entertainment. "Sit," my father ordered. "Iset." He placed the folder in front of me. "You're going to fix this," he said calmly. I frowned. "Fix what?" "You're going to sign the inheritance into my control," he replied. "Tonight." The words hit me like ice water. "I'm not signing anything," I said quietly. Linda leaned forward with a fake smile. "Sweetheart, $15 billion is too much responsibility for someone like you. Your father will manage it better." Evan chuckled. "You'd lose half of it in 6 months." My father slid the paper closer to me. "I'll give you 10%, he said smoothly. "More than enough to live comfortably. Travel. Enjoy life. No stress. 10%. In exchange for everything. In exchange for control. For silence. For obedience." I stared at the empty signature line. Then I shook my head. "No." The calm vanished from his face instantly. "If you walk away from this deal," he said coldly, "you walk away from this family." I swallowed hard. "Then I walk away." The words left my mouth before fear could stop them. For a moment, no one spoke. Then he said the sentence that erased everything I once believed about family. "Pack your things," he said. "'Kay for me to lose my home." I packed silently, my hands shaking as I stuffed clothes into a suitcase. I skipped decorations, old photos, meaningless objects. Nothing felt like mine anymore. At the bottom of my drawer, my fingers touched something cold. A small brass key. The one my grandmother had given me months earlier. "Just in case," she had said. I slipped it into my pocket without thinking. When I came downstairs, my father stood by the door waiting. Arms crossed. Face cold. "Goodbye, Dad," I whispered. He didn't reply. He just opened the door. And just like that, I stepped out into the night with nowhere to go. I drove without thinking. tears blurring my vision until the city lights disappeared behind me. Eventually, I found myself turning down a long road I hadn't visited since my grandmother passed. Her mansion. The iron gate stood tall and silent. For a moment, I hesitated. Then I reached into my pocket and pulled out the key. It slid into the lock perfectly. The gates opened slowly. And for the first time that night, I felt something close to safety. Inside the mansion, the silence felt heavy but familiar. I stepped into the hallway, my footsteps echoing across marble floors. "Hello," I called softly. A man stepped forward from the shadows. "Miss Stella," he said warmly. "I'm Thomas, your grandmother's house manager." Relief hit me so hard my knees nearly gave out. "You're not alone here," he added gently. And for the first time since my father shut the door behind me, I believed him. The next morning, everything changed again. 2 people waited in the study. "She expected this," Grace said calmly. "Expected what?" I asked. "Your father trying to take control." They explained everything carefully. The inheritance wasn't simple money. It was protected inside a trust. Impossible to transfer. Impossible to steal. Impossible to control. Even if I wanted to sign it away, I legally couldn't. My grandmother had already protected me. Then they showed me something I wasn't ready for. A video. My grandmother appeared on the screen, sitting calmly in her favorite chair. "If you're watching this," she said, "it means Stella needs protection." She spoke about my father's greed, about his control, about why she trusted me. "Stella never asked for anything," she said. "She showed up with love, not demands." Tears streamed down my face. Not because of the money, but because she believed in me. 2 days later, my father came to the mansion. 3 cars rolled into the driveway like an invasion. He walked inside without permission, his voice sharp with authority. "This ends now," he snapped. "Give me the documents." I stepped forward. "No." His jaw tightened. "You don't understand what you're doing," he said. "No." Y replica calmly. "You don't." Grace pressed a button. The screen lit up again. My grandmother appeared once more. "Robert," she said calmly, "if you are watching this, you have already tried to take what does not belong to you." My father froze. For the first time in my life, he had no words. Then another man stepped into the room. A retired judge. "Come. Serious. Final. You have no legal claim here," the judge said firmly. "Leave now." And after they left, the mansion felt lighter. Not empty. Free. For days, messages flooded my phone. Threats. Apologies. Fake kindness. I ignored them all. Instead, I focused on what mattered. Not revenge. Responsibility. I worked with lawyers and advisors, learning how to manage the trust my grandmother built. And slowly, something inside me changed. Fear turned into strength. Doubt turned into purpose. I used the money to fund education programs, legal support, and resources for people trapped in situations like mine. People pressured into silence by power and fear. Because I finally understood something my grandmother had known all along. Money doesn't make you powerful. Integrity does. Months later, I stood alone in her garden, watching sunlight fall across the roses she once cared for so carefully. The air smelled like peace. Not victory. Not revenge. Peace. I realized then. My father didn't lose because I gained money. He lost because he lost control. And I gained something far more valuable than wealth. Freedom. The kind that comes when you finally choose yourself. Because the real inheritance my grandmother left me wasn't $15 billion. It was courage. And I promised myself that day I would never sell it.